Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Matthew Dickerson. Tech Talk. Sit back and relax. It's time to talk technology.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. We're playing for you now the best of 2025. We've gone through our whole list of old stories all the way through to January of 2025, plucked out the best, Matt, and I think we're pretty happy with what we've got there.
Well, it's quite fascinating, and it's quite enjoyable actually going back and listening to some of those stories. There's 9 stories we do each week. We've done more than 50 episodes this year, so that's 450 different stories. Curating those and trying to find the best of was quite a challenge. So this is week 1 of the best of. So we'll play a few stories, maybe 9, maybe a few more. Maybe there's a couple of bonus ones in there. It was hard to pick out the best of those ones there. But hopefully we'll actually see, and the ones I try to pick out were ones where we've seen a bit of change there, because it's fascinating how much changes in just a year.
Yeah, that's right. The whole thing about technology is moving so fast, and it's so easy to be left behind. I'm glad that we're able to keep people up to speed.
Yeah, that's right. So we've got a couple of weeks off while these best ofs play, and then we'll be back into it for 2026 with a whole bunch of new stories as well. So listeners, enjoy. Maybe you've heard some of these stories when you listen to them the first time. Maybe they're a reminder. Maybe it's the first time you've heard them, but please enjoy.
Okay, tuck in, folks. Our first story is going to leave you a bit out of breath. Now, I like to run, though I'm yet to take on half a marathon. I think I know from experience at least a little of what it's like to train hard for a cause. Maybe one day I'll have a crack at that 22 Ks. But when you're really put in the hours for a cause, it's really hard when someone shows up at the starting line who you know hasn't done any training, and then they outperform you, hardly breaking a sweat. Spare a thought for the runners who lined up for a half marathon in Beijing recently, only to find 21 humanoid robots also had joined them at the starting line there. Matt, this is it. The seal has been broken. Man versus machine. The day has arrived.
This is the first one where you've had humanoid robots competing in the same race against the runners.
Now, there's all this arguments about transgender and all that sort of stuff. This is going to blow that out of the water.
That's right. What gender do you have for these humanoid robots? Terrible idea. So I like the fact that, I'll give you some times in a minute, but I like the fact that they didn't win. So it's
that's good.
A tick
that's
for the humans.
Start.
The other thing I wanted to talk about briefly is the distance. So it's always been intriguing to me, and I did actually bother to look it up one day, because I was intrigued by why the marathon, and then hence the half marathon, is such a strange distance. So the half marathon is 21.0975 kilometres, obviously exactly half the full marathon. The full marathon originally, I suppose, measured in miles, 26 miles and 385 yards. So I just assumed that was a distance that was from Athens to Marathon, the original story of running a marathon. But it wasn't. The distance from Athens to Marathon is a little bit less than that. That distance was arrived at unofficially, then officially eventually, after the 1908 Olympics in London. And the royal family said, gee, it would be nice to start the marathon at Windsor Castle with the kids. See the start, and then you finish at the Royal Box at White City Stadium.
Of course.
And, of course, the organiser said, well, this is the royal family asking for this. Sure thing. We'll modify the distance a bit. And that distance from Windsor Castle around the course they'd mapped out to the Royal Box was 26 miles, 385 yards. So that was the distance unofficially.
Not 386 yards, 385 yards.
Apparently.
Right. Yeah, okay.
And then the next Olympics, well, if you're going to have an event that's got a standard distance, well, you've got to do the same. So the next Olympics they did it. And it wasn't until 1921, not 2021, took a bit short of that, 1921, that the IAAF officially said, okay, we're going to ratify the official distance of the marathon. It was 26 miles, 385 yards, and then converted to kilometres. So that's where we come up with this strange distance. So it's amazing how we get these things, especially with every other event being a round number, 100 metres, 400 metres.
How many swimming pools is that?
How many laps of swimming pool can you do in that time? So we've got robots, 21 humanoid robots. The idea was, it's actually not a bad idea, some Chinese manufacturers are really being encouraged, strongly encouraged to get robotics. The whole industry is going to be worth hundreds of billions of dollars when they finally get to the stage where we can have robots picking up clothes around my house. I'm not going to spend that much, but people around the world will spend
That's
hundreds
the
of
standard.
billions.
That's the mark that we're going for.
That's what I'm looking for
Being able
anyway,
to pick up
personally.
clothes in your house,
That's
not
right.
anybody else's house.
No, I've got no steps, so it makes it easy for
Yeah,
them.
right, okay.
I just need them. And wheels, yeah, they probably get around in wheels, but I'd prefer them walking around. Just feels more comfortable for some reason. But they've been encouraged to go and do things with robots because they think the Chinese government thinks there's a huge industry there, which I think is right. So they had robots entered. There were 21 various sizes, 120 centimetres to 180 centimetres. There was no...
Various numbers of legs?
No, they were all bipedal.
Okay.
No set...
Or humanoid, yeah.
Or humanoid, yeah. No set rules apart from basically humanoid. And then go for it. Now, each robot had to be accompanied by a human trainer, so they'd have someone that could run a marathon with them. But it wasn't that hard because the winner, Tiangong Ultra, Tiangong Ultra, Tiangong Ultra, completed the half marathon in 2 hours and 40 minutes. Now, that's not that impressive.
No.
I'm only a very basic amateur runner, but when I've done a few half marathons, I've done them in under an hour 40.
Yeah.
So I beat the robots by an hour.
And I think like Olympic records and stuff for the marathon is about 2 hours. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
about 2 hours. So the winner of this particular race, human winner, did it in 1 hour and 2 minutes. So smashed the robots. Fantastic. One for the good guys. But they finished it. Well, not all of them. Some of them had some issues. Some of them required some battery changes. Some of them fell over at the start line. Some of them ran into things. One ran into a railing. This is despite they've got a human trainer.
There's a Monty
being
Python
beside them.
sketch that I'm visualising here.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
I'm thinking of
Yeah.
the
Was it
marathon.
100 metres for people with no sense of direction and
That's
just
right.
blow the starting gun and everyone just stares off him? Anyway.
And the other one was the marathon for people with
Weak bladders, yes. Yeah, that's
right.
right. Keep running off the road into the bushes.
So they weren't all fantastic. They weren't all perfect, but they really showed that it can be done. And look, they took it all in good fun. They had some that put running shoes on, the latest running shoes to make them run a bit better. Some wore boxing gloves. Some wore motivational headbands. So they got into the spirit of it. But we'll laugh about this in a few years' time.
Yeah.
2 hours and 40 minutes. We'll see robots doing 1 hour and 40 minutes, 1 hour. We'll see robots
Yeah.
winning these races at some point in the future. But again, it was a real contest amongst the manufacturers to show
Yeah, right.
where they're at, what they could do with it. So it really is about that investment in robotics. And I like what China's doing. China's saying, we're going to be the future nation. We're going to invest in EVs. We're going to invest in batteries. They've done huge amounts of investments in things like lithium, processing of lithium, not necessarily mining, but processing. Because if you want some of the raw materials that you can use in things like EVs or even robotics, then you need to get it processed somewhere. You might be able to mine it in some country, but you need to get it processed. China just about has a monopoly on that, which is a bit scary, but also very smart from the Chinese government. Even some of the things that the Americans use in their fighter planes need to be processed in China, which I'm sure America isn't that comfortable about. So this is great news. It's getting me one step closer to being lazier, which is what I'm after.
And do you know what? I just had a thought. This could open up like a whole new sport where we have half marathon running robots, but combine that with robot wars or robot battles that they have. There's a TV show where they battle robots, BattleBots, where they've got weapons and stuff and they whack each other as they're running along this course. And they can be like shooting flames at each other and it's the battle at the end. And really, what's the cost at the end of it? Just a bit of metal.
That's right. So the boxing gloves are soft, you're thinking.
Yeah, when you
want
said boxing
flamethrowers?
gloves, all of a sudden I thought, well, what else could you attach there? And you could have hammers and all sorts of, yeah.
And a few sneaky ones going ahead, putting a string across the road so they trip them over. And look,
Yeah.
I'm not like
And no
where you're
harm, no
going
foul.
here.
It's just open slather. It's like old school gladiators. It was a logical step, I guess. AI is doing all the things that we used to have to put some thought into, like writing songs and solving problems, creating artwork and undertaking research. AI does it all now and at the click of a mouse button. But why wouldn't you get it to do your shopping for you too? ChatGPT is now into bargain hunting, Matt.
There's a Yellow Pages ad back from the 80s, which I hope you remember. It was where the girl, a very young girl, probably 5 or 6 years of age, rings and the guy answers and ProCheck Hardware, and this very young voice comes on the phone and he starts treating her like a very young girl, thinking, oh, yeah, she wants to buy a drill for her daddy. And then she asks a question that's got a whole range of technical things. I want variable speed gears. I want hammer switch action. And he goes, oh, yeah, the Boss CSB 700RE, 2RE will do that. So he's a bit confused by all this technical knowledge. And then she starts rattling off a few more things, and that's great, but I want one with a keyless chuck. And, oh, well, okay. Then he starts pulling out the book to look through it all.
You
I'll just look
remember
it
this
all up.
ad very well. It had its impact on you.
It did. I absolutely loved it because the punchline at the end of the ad, which is why I've remembered it some 40 or 30 years later, is that he says, so how long have you been researching drills? And she goes, oh, around 20 minutes. And, of course, up comes the ad at the end, shop smarter, yellow pages. Yeah. And what I loved about that ad, which I find myself doing sometimes, is you become an expert, in inverted commas, pretty quickly when you start talking to people who sell these different items. So if you're looking around for whatever it is, blue widgets, and you start making a few phone calls, and I'm going back to the old days here, you picked out the yellow pages and you'd learn something from the first guy and he'd say, oh, no, you've definitely got to get the blue widget size 20. That's the only one to get. And you're, oh, okay, right. And you don't go and buy it off that guy. You ring the next guy and he starts talking about, well, the size 21s are common, but they've got an issue with, and you suddenly learn a bit more. And after you talk to 4 or 5, and so just like the young girl on the ad, you're suddenly quoting all these stats and specs to people who go, wow, you know your blue widgets, don't you? And you go, well, I didn't 20 minutes ago. We've now got the internet. And I actually find it's a real issue with me because I've got a condition known as perfectionism. And I don't like to make a purchase until I'm convinced.
Unless you've got the very best one.
And not necessarily the very best, because sometimes that just means you pay a lot of money, but the very best suited for what I want. Right. So it sometimes involves lots of websites, and I still make good old-fashioned phone calls because sometimes you just get a little tidbit from someone, a bit of information. So you go through, so to buy something simple, I can suddenly spend hours doing the research on that because I want to make sure I'm getting all the information and getting it all gathered together. It's like a research project for me, and then make the final decision because I don't want to get buyer's remorse the next day. I don't want to go, oh, what? I missed that thing.
I could have got that one.
Yeah,
have someone to come up to you and go, oh, you bought that one. Why'd you buy that one?
Yeah,
you
don't say that to me.
That's the worst, the nightmare.
It is. So now ChatGPT is at the point where you can start to use ChatGPT for your purchases. Now, this is a major problem for Google and Facebook because at the moment, and let's face it, let's be real here, it's probably not going to stay this way, but at the moment, ChatGPT is not paid any money by any advertisers to go and promote a certain product. You can just use ChatGPT and ask for a whole range of information about a product. But Google last year generated about $240 billion from advertising revenue. Wow. Facebook, or Meta to be more accurate, generated $132 billion from their advertising. So they don't really love the idea of us going to something like ChatGPT for free and asking about information. But when you go to ChatGPT, you're not getting sponsored ads. That's the first thing. Fantastic. And they're saying at the moment, no, we're just getting to give you information. You say what you want, and the lovely thing about ChatGPT is it knows you. It remembers what you like. It knows that you like orange, not green. So when you're looking for things, it might recommend things that are orange, not green. It'll remember your preferences, and then you can give it information in a contextual format, and it will give you information back that's relevant to you. So it's doing that, chasing around the phone calls, all the rest of it for you. And then it comes back and says, here's what I would recommend.
Here's your best options.
Now, it can go and find sites for you where to buy it. So that's great. But at the moment, they're not collecting money along the way. I'm sure they will. I'm sure at some point in the time they'll go, when you click on this, we get some commission out of this because we've sent you to their site and then you're going to make a purchase. So that will happen. But at the moment...
So then it's not an objective search.
Correct, that's right.
Subjective,
so use it while it's pure at the moment. So,
all right.
And I do subscribe.
Going home to use it right now.
That's right. I do pay for chat. I pay my $20 a month or whatever it is for chat because I kind of like the idea that maybe you'll have to pay to use something like chat so that you can keep it pure. Because Google, I don't pay for Google, but I know they're making money out of advertising that gets thrown up in front of me. Yeah. And I almost feel like I want to go below where it says sponsored and give me the first real result, and I want to ignore those sponsored ads, but sometimes it's so easy just to click on the first one and have a look at that. So have a look at chat. It'll go through, give you the answers, give you information back about what you basically give it to it in terms of information, narrow down a shortlist for you, do all that research, that running around for you, but do it all quickly as well, and presumably do the pseudo phone calls by getting all that information off the web. So fascinating. Have a go. I've already tried using it a few times, and I'm pretty convinced it's good in terms of scouring the market, finding what you want and giving you back the details.
Amazing.
Yeah.
The spy game has kicked up a notch. Now, in cop shows and spy movies, it was one of the henchman's basic roles to frisk the hero for the wired recording devices. Reporters of old used to have to tote a clunky tape recorder to keep track of meetings and catch the big scoop. Now, all you need is a smart bracelet, a pendant or a lapel pin. All cheap as chips and able to be picked up online or at any decent tech store. Perhaps the start of a new era, Matt. All conversations will be recorded.
Imagine that. And it's a bit of a running joke in our family. We've got some cameras around the outside of our house to protect our house. And one day one of our children was having a conversation, and later on that night they were retelling this, and one of the sisters said, no, that's not how it happened. And they argue back and forth about what happened. And they said, check the footage. We'll see what happened, what really happened out there. So, of course, they go and check the footage. Aha, see, I told you I was right. And so from then on, it might have been weeks, months later, whatever happened, wherever it was, check the footage. That's right.
Yeah, okay.
It's not going to lie. Our memories are malleable. We know that.
Yeah.
But the footage isn't going to lie. Now, this is a different concept where you sometimes feel like you might have some videos around your house or maybe some cameras around your business. Maybe you've got dash cam in your car. I've got dash cam on my push bike when I go for a bike ride. So I kind of feel like I'm under surveillance a bit, but not all the time.
Well, there's a self-imposed surveillance.
That's right. That's true.
So we're talking about Big Brother here, but Big Brother is actually yourself.
Correct. Big Brother being myself. That's a creepy concept. So this is going further again where you're using some sort of recording device on your body, as you said, a pendant or a lapel pin. It's not only recording what's happening, it's sending it to the cloud, getting AI to transcribe it, taking action from some of the conversations, and giving you, at the end of the day, week, whatever you want, a complete transcription of your life. Wow. Now, I'm not sure I want to read that because maybe my life's not as exciting as I think it is. When I read back, I go, well, that's a pretty boring conversation. Why did James hang around and talk to me? He should have left. That was boring. So that's one part of it, but it also takes action. So, hey, James, let's catch up next week at 10 o'clock for a coffee on Thursday. I don't have to think about it because my little monitoring device will go off and book that appointment into my calendar.
In your calendar? Oh,
that's right, done.
Yeah, wow.
I've got to get a few things done. I've got to go out and buy some cornflakes and some eggs and some flour. Oh, there's my shopping list in a to-do list already done for me.
I'm just thinking about the times we've had a conversation in the shopping centre. Oh, we should catch up on Friday. And it's one of those things that both of you forget, and that's all right because you weren't really committed anyway. That's right. But now you're committed.
That's it.
Both
Absolutely.
of you are going to commit.
And you've got it recorded. You've got a transcript in there. No. James, you told me you'd be here on Friday. But it was even funny because I read some stories, some reviews of people that had tried this out for a few weeks. And one of them had a murder appointment on Wednesday night at 9 o'clock to murder Joanna.
Right.
Probably not something you want to put in your diary.
That's right.
The forensic...
Get that one on the download?
That's right. The forensic police probably wouldn't have to look that hard.
Yeah.
But the person wearing the pin was watching a murder show on TV. And there was a conversation that happened on TV. The pin wasn't clever enough to work out that this wasn't a conversation the wearer was having. They thought the wearer was having. They picked up the whole conversation from TV. They were plotting a murder for Joanna at 9 o'clock on Wednesday night. So in the calendar, next day, there's Joanna, must murder Joanna at 9 o'clock. So it doesn't quite get context around that. And obviously listening to TV shows is a bit unusual. But I'm really not that sure that I'd be comfortable talking to someone not knowing whether they're recording me, though there wasn't necessarily a light on. Some of them have the option to say put a light on when they're recording.
So if it's like a bracelet, it's not an obvious thing.
No.
A lapel pin's probably going to be a little bit obvious. It's not like a brooch that looks like a dragonfly or something. It looks like a lump of something that
might be doing something.
Might be recording.
Yeah.
And same with the pendant too, I gather.
Yeah, now we've talked about glasses before, that the light will be on when it's recording you. So, for example, some of the glasses by Meta or Snap, so some of those. But again, wearing a little bracelet, no one would really take much notice of it.
Yeah, and if the pendant's sort of tucked underneath the T-shirt, hemline of your neckline, I should say, yeah. You
wouldn't really notice it. So it's a scary world. Now, again, is that going to be used for evil? Quite possibly. Is it going to be used for something useful in your life to have your life recorded? Oh, gee. I'm okay writing things down that I need to remember or putting them in my diary and I choose.
I'm just ready to be accountable for absolutely everything that I say now, Matt. And I remember you giving me the advice, if you're going to tell a lie, you've got to be prepared to carry it the whole way through.
Did I say that to you? I would have said that to you. I would have said, don't lie, James, don't lie.
Yeah, so it's just easier to tell the truth.
It is.
But sometimes we tactically tell the truth. White lies just to say, but now we're going to be caught.
Now we're going to be caught. It's going to be a transcription of it.
Yeah.
James, you said this.
No.
The other concept, I think, which is a problem, is the legal implication.
In the sticks.
So if I look at the US, for example, and they do like to sue people in the US, in some states they require two-party consent for audio. So you'd almost need to walk up, "G'day, James, how are you going? This conversation has been recorded for coaching purposes." Maybe, I'm not sure why you might justify that. But in some states, so for example in New Jersey and New York, you only need one-party consent to record a conversation. So there'd be no problem with me wearing something in New York.
Because you consent to the conversation.
Exactly right. So I can have the conversation with anyone I like. So where are we going with this? It's one thing having traffic signals with video recorders on there, but walking around recording everything in your life, and then the cloud computing power you need to do all this, the amount of energy that's used for all this, just to record the fact that I had some bacon and eggs for breakfast this morning. Yeah, it's interesting. But
I think anytime you bump into someone in the street, frisk them, ask them if they've got any recording devices. That's right. Yeah, before you even say hello.
That's right. Yeah, and then finally you can sign this form that you've got no recording devices, and away you go.
Now, it's been a while since we were last blessed with a major technological advance in the world of sneakers. The Reebok pumps set off a technological explosion for the industry back in the 90s, if you remember. And then Nike, Adidas, Reebok and friends, they all went into overdrive to improve grip, speed, comfort. But I've got to say, these things have been pretty quiet for a couple of decades now. Now, sure, fashion with stakes with Yeezys and all those sorts of things, they've been really high, and there's a shoe buying and selling culture out there. But shoe engineers, I feel like they have gone into hibernation. But Matt, Nike's back again in the headlines with a foot-warming, massaging shoe, ideal for warm-up and recoveries.
Yeah, sounds cool. Now,
I will say, amazing.
It is actually. I will say Nike do have their Hyper series, their Zoom series, and I do cheat when I run at Park Run because I have those shoes that promise me I'll go 4% faster. And of course, being the nerd that I am, when I bought a pair, I did some experiments. It may have been in my head, but I wore my normal shoes.
Yep.
I went for a run the next day, so not much change in fitness, around at the same time. Put on these. I did go 4% faster. Went back to my old shoes.
4%?
4%. I went back to my previous shoes the next day, 4% slower. What I would have loved to have had is some way of blindfolding myself to not know what shoes I was in.
That's right.
To see, but I ended up then buying them for the
got
kids.
Confirmation bias.
Probably, but all the kids ran them, and they did anywhere from about 3.5% to 5% faster with the
5% faster. Wow.
So that's the only reason that I can just manage to sneak in front of you at Park Run, because I'm wearing shoes where I'm cheating. So
just managed to sneak in front of you. Well, thank you very much for the compliment there.
But I do when I'm running along and I see someone without some, and there's other brands that have got them now as well. Brooks have got them, for example, and I see people without those shoes. I go, well, I better beat him or him or her because, look, I'm cheating with these shoes I've got on. So anyway, interesting enough, these are shoes you can still walk around with as well. I don't know if they'd recommend wearing them while you're doing Park Run, but they do talk about pre-workout warm-up, post-workout recovery. I want a pair of these. They sound pretty cool. So they've got batteries in them, they've got heaters in them, and they've got an air massage. Now, how the air massage works is a dual air bladder, and it basically does a sequential massaging process. So it does a pattern.
That'd be just weird.
It sounds cool.
So if you're walking down the street and you see someone with this silly grin on their face,
look at their shoes.
Just check their shoes out.
That's right. Because to me, warm feet, that's fine. We don't get really cold enough here where we live that you get
but we are
feet.
in Australia. We are heading into the winter months, so
we are. So sometimes you're out and
cold
about.
on my feet this morning when I went down to Park Run.
Well, and that might be it. Maybe times you do need that. I was actually thinking of nice big Ugg boots around the house. And then put these on instead. Can use
They've
these.
got batteries,
but they do. So the battery will last in massage only mode about 8 hours. In heating and massage mode, you can imagine the heating power about 1.5 hours. But 1.5 hours of warm tootsies being massaged, that sounds pretty attractive to me.
So I'm thinking, what, these are all operated by your phone, or do they have a Reebok pump type basketball on the tongue there to?
No, they've got an app that you connect to, so you can control exactly what's happening. Yeah. The only issue I've got, and the only reason I'm not buying them, is at the moment you can only buy them online if you're located in North America.
Oh.
Now, my brother lives in North America, so I'm half tempted to say,
right.
can you just buy them for me, and then they can ship to his house and then just ship them over to me. So I don't know if I'm trying, if that's a bit naughty, I'm suddenly being deceitful now if I do that. So he could buy them for me as a present, perhaps.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
the
right,
thing.
yeah.
So it sounds pretty cool. I think we're getting better at different wearables, and this is normally when I think about wearables, I think about watches and rings. I don't think
that's
about
right. Measuring
shoes.
your fitness, but then you've got this shoe that's nurturing you through to better health and whatnot.
Yeah,
Foot
so
health.
they were shown off once before at CES as a concept shoe, and then obviously the reaction was pretty good, so they went, let's go into production and let's go for it, which is great where things like CES are able to be used to see what the reaction is when people laugh at it as they walk past. They go, let's not go into production of that one. When people go, hey, I'd like a pair of these, then maybe. So bring that on worldwide, I would say. Surely it's just a website. You can order, you can ship worldwide. Nike do it with other shoes. Why aren't you doing it with these shoes, I would say?
Matter of time, maybe?
Matter of time. And the only other minor part is the matter of $900. We're hitting the expensive
That's
items
before
today.
tariffs?
Probably $900. Well, it might be $3,000 after tariffs in the way they're going at the moment.
Now, robot vacuum cleaners are the tech that has potentially had the biggest impact on the domestic scene in recent years. But up until now, it's been pretty much for obstacles that otherwise need to be tidied up. It's not been very good for those obstacles. Up until now, that is. Matt, loose shoes and socks lying on the couch, or by the couch on the floor, I should say, are no problem for the Robo-Rock, that is, the Robo-Rock 270.
It sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? I actually thought, we keep talking about cartoons and fiction that has developed into the real world, and Inspector Gadget came to mind for this one, because Inspector Gadget has a bunch of stuff that comes out of his hat. So, and I'm trying to remember, I think it's like a magnifying glass comes out and various things come
Whatever
out.
the cartoonist was looking to pull out of the hat.
That's right, he could do
on
anything.
that day.
It was almost like it was magical. So this is a bit the same as that. It's a robot vacuum cleaner. Most people are familiar with what that looks like. And as it comes along and sees a pair of socks, they don't say undies, but I'm assuming undies as well. When they didn't say undies, I just assumed they were being polite and didn't want to offend anyone. But surely undies would be the obvious thing along with socks that would be left on the ground. And when it approaches those, some robot vacuum cleaners we know just run over them and get them all tied up the mechanism. Well, that's not great. The other thing that we've seen robot vacuum cleaners do is detect things and go around them. So that's good because it doesn't chew them up, but it also doesn't clean them out.
But you can also see where the undies were left behind.
That's right. This one comes along, and there's different modes you can program for it, but it can either do one thing, it'll pick it up, take it to a central location, a pre-programmed location, and drop it there. So you could put a little bucket there, for example, to catch the undies and socks, and then keep vacuuming. Or if you thought it was important that those undies and socks were on the ground, it can pick them up, vacuum, and then put them back in exactly the same location. So when you come home, you don't know whether it's been vacuumed or not. Well, it does, doesn't
I vacuumed.
it? I did. You sure? Because the socks and undies are still there. Now I'll put them back where they were.
Yeah.
You sure you did that? So it can pick up things up to about 300 grams. It does look like Inspector Gadget because it's got a little lid or door on top of it that lifts up, and the arm literally comes out and picks it up.
That's
it sounds
fantastic.
it sounds a bit eerie, doesn't it?
It's not a cow catcher, folks. It's an arm that comes out and picks it up.
Picks it up, puts them away. It can pick up slippers. It can pick up light shoes. Again, 300 grams is its limit. At this stage, the AI inside it isn't smart enough to pick up toys. So bits of Lego, the classic Lego on the ground that you step on that is incredibly painful. It can't pick up those at this stage. But the manufacturer has said that they're doing software updates. They'll keep updating them as many devices have now. And at some stage, they'll introduce that via a firmware or a software update so it can then recognise toys. But that'd be tough too, wouldn't it? There's a lot of toys out there.
There are.
But wouldn't it just be, if there's anything on the ground, see if you can pick it up. If you can't, leave it there. If you can, pick it up and move it away somewhere.
Yeah.
You might end up with a bin full of socks, undies and toys, which mightn't be that fun getting
I
the
think
toys
this
out
would
of.
be entertaining to watch.
I think you're right.
Just seeing it walking around and just feeling stuff around your house. Am I going to pick this up and while I vacuum, or am I going to leave it?
What I also liked is it's almost feeling like you don't trust it, because if it tries to pick something up and it can't, for whatever reason, it can't grip it, it's too heavy for it, it actually takes a photo of the thing that it couldn't pick up, so you can see that I couldn't pick up this particular item. So again, it feels like, did you try and pick that up? Yeah, I did. I tried, but I couldn't. Are you sure you tried to pick that up?
So what happens when it goes to pick up the dog poo and it gets a bit squishy and just smears everywhere?
I wonder that because we've seen those famous videos where a robot vacuum cleaner has run over poo, and we've gotten better. We've done stories before about robot vacuum cleaners that can detect poo and go around it and leave it alone. And this one I thought you might want it to pick it up, but you want to do a soft test first. You want to just do a quick test. Is it squidgy still? Okay, leave it. Oh, it looks like it's dried a bit. We'll just pick it up and it'll be okay. So I suspect at this stage it avoids them because it probably hasn't got the intelligence to know whether it's squidgy or not. So it's called the Roborock Saros, Saros Z70. So have a look at that. It's a bit rich, $2,900.
But worth it for the entertainment.
Well, you'd think so, wouldn't you? And you say that, and I have sat on my deck and watched my robot my robot lawnmower actually do its job. And sometimes I'll just check how it's going, and you sit there sometimes for a minute and you go, I'll just sat here for a minute watching that because it's just fascinating. So I'm sure this will be even more fascinating because my lawnmower doesn't have an arm that comes out and pick up branches that are on the ground.
You've just thought of something just then. Oh, we've got to get into that. Robot arms on lawnmowers to pick up sticks and stuff.
So we're getting closer. This isn't picking up the clothes off my kid's floor yet, but we're getting closer, James. We're getting closer to something.
We're almost there to Rosie.
That's right, almost there for Rosie. One, just small step at a time.
Low-light night vision goggles and thermography imaging devices have always come with some bulky headwear and or carry packs. That is so first quarter of the 21st century. Seeing in the dark is now as easy and convenient as a simple pair of contact lenses. Matt, even Tony Stark will be impressed by these modern marvels.
I was actually thinking of Buffalo Bill. When I think of night vision goggles, the first image that comes to mind is Silence of the Lambs, Clarice Starling.
That freaky.
That's right. Going around Buffalo Bill, the serial killer. And so she's in a dark room in a basement somewhere. And you go, of all the basements that I want to be in when it's dark, Buffalo Bill is not the choice of the person I want to have with me. And of course, Buffalo Bill's got the night vision goggles walking around and you can see what's going on. So that's what I think of when I think of night vision goggles. Maybe I should think of something different.
It speaks volumes, man.
That's right.
Right.
But we have talked before about getting low-powered night vision goggles. There's better night vision goggles, but this now is next level. This is
a pair of contact lenses.
Not a big power supply you got to plug in. You don't need to power
This is
them.
movie stuff. This is like, they put in contact lenses as if you could do that.
That's right. Yeah. Now, a bit different night vision goggles that we talk about from Buffalo Bill type night vision goggles take whatever available light is in the room and it amplifies it dramatically. So you don't need much light to be able to see with night vision with those sort of ones that look like toilet rolls that you have on your eyes. This is a bit different. This is looking at infrared. And it's what the contact lenses are doing very cleverly is it's turning infrared, which we can't see, our pathetic little eyes can't see infrared light, but it turns that into visible light. And it does that by having a bunch of elements in there in compounds, in nanoparticles, in the actual contact lenses. You've got things like gold and erbium and sodium gadolinium and all sorts of different compounds they've created to convert that infrared light into visible light, which is just incredible. Here's the really tricky part about this. Because we're not relying on visible light, you can see just as well if you close your eyes with the contact lenses.
Stop.
So you can stand there with your eyes closed and you can see the same as your eyes open at nighttime with infrared. Now,
so if you need to go to sleep, take the contact lenses in.
Probably a good idea. The conversion is such, though, that you need a bit of infrared light being injected into the scene. And the easiest thing I think of there is CCTV cameras. Lots of those people have around houses and businesses.
Yeah.
And you'll typically see at night time just a faint of a red glow on them. And then when you look at the vision that you get from CCTV cameras now, it's very good, very impressive at night time, in mono, of course, but that camera is putting out infrared light, which is then bouncing back. The camera's detecting that, and then it's converting that into something that we can see. And so you get really clear vision at night time with those infrared cameras or with those CCTV cameras. It's a bit the same with this. It's relying on some source of infrared to be able to see at night. You are getting the ability to see something just from the warmth of a body. So, for example, if there was a person in front of you, you wouldn't be able to make out it was James, but I'd be able to make out it's a lump that's putting out some sort of radiation.
This is predator vision. isn't it?
That's right. You can see around a room and go, there's an animal there, there's a person there.
Yeah, wow.
That's about it. But if there was infrared injected into that room, so if there was an infrared source like a CCTV camera, you'd get the reflection of that back, and yes, you could see with greater clarity then. Now, sometimes I see stuff like that and I go, yeah, I think, cool. When am I going to use this? How often do I need to see at night time, walking around the house, tripping over Lego on the ground on my way to the toilet? I don't know that I need this. I probably just turn the light on.
Into this Buffalo Bill memory?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, they do talk about using it for things that are like covert operations or for warfare and things like that. I always try and think of a better use rather than warfare. I'd rather not.
But people design the technology and then people come up with uses for it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So at the moment, it's still a bit blurry. At the moment, the definition's not absolutely perfect, not as good as your CCTV cameras at night time, but just the fact that you could put contact lenses in converting infrared to visible light, I find that fascinating.
It's a lollybag of elements from the periodic table.
Correct.
And a bit of wizardry.
And excuse the pun, but keep an eye out for developments in this one.
Oh, thank you. Let's kick off with a story born from a very savvy brewer. Now, I don't know about you, but when I need to choose the perfect wine, I always turn to a trusted sommelier. Sadly, though, LeMichael knows nothing about beer, which beer is best for a Saturday afternoon, and I just don't have a good Cicerone in my contact list. Now, side note, for those new money listeners, a Cicerone is an expert on beers, if I can just spell that out for you. Now, Matt, in the absence of a qualified Cicerone, is there any other option for my desperate plight of which beer to have on a Saturday afternoon?
There is, and this all comes back to a major first world problem.
Yeah.
You walk into a pub.
Not enough sommeliers or Cicerones.
That's two other problems as well. But the real problem is when you walk into a pub, in particular a pub you haven't been to before or recently even, and you look at the taps behind the bar to see the labels that are the beers on tap, and you go, I'm not familiar with all of those. Which beer am I going to have?
So you go with the best label.
Well, possibly. There's a whole range of... That might work for you. That might work for other people. They might say to the barman, which do you recommend? But there's nothing worse. Well, probably are things worse, but in first world problems...
First world problems,
that's
there's
right.
nothing worse.
You order a beer that you're not familiar with and you go, I'll give that one a go because I like the label or the barman said so or for whatever reason. And you pay a lot of money for a beer these days. You get the beer and you sit down, you take a taste and you go, you know what?
I don't like that beer.
Exactly. But what do you do then? I've paid for it.
Yeah.
I don't want to just cast it aside.
Finish the whole
I've got to finish
thing.
it. That's right. That's the problem. So you finish that whole beer and then what do? You go to the bar and try a different one. Now, we're not recommending excessive drinking here, of course, but sometimes you might try a few. Of course, the solution to all of this is an app. Surely there's an app for that. That's a common statement that I've heard people say. And most of the time I say, yes, there is an app for that without any knowledge whether there's an app for that because there's a lot of apps out there. So now there is an app to help you try it. There's a couple of limitations on this, but they're only early limitations. The first problem we've got is that this new app is called Joey and it's developed by Lion, the beer maker called Lion. Now, at this stage, they only have Lion beers on the app, of course.
So it's just a marketing tool.
It's a marketing tool.
Which Lion beer do I want this Saturday
Correct.
afternoon?
So it's not which beer, it's which Lion beer. Now, that's okay because it's early stages. And again, I think that when someone's got this app and they go, this is okay for Lion beers, but why don't we have it for every beer? Absolutely. There's an app right there and someone's probably already working on that app right now. But the cool part is you put in some basic components of your beer preference. What alcohol content do I want? Do I want full strength? Do I want half strength? Do I want no strength in there? What sort of bitterness do I like? What sort of flavour profile? You put in a few basic components and also other beers that you might like. And then the app does its AI magic and says, right, when you walk into that pub, take a photo of the taps, and AI doesn't care whether they're pretty or not. They just analyse what's there. And then you say, with my flavour profile, what should I choose out of those Lion beers? And it will say, here's the perfect Lion beer for you. Or it also might say, well, actually, none of the beers on tap here suit your
somewhere
preference.
else.
Exactly right. It just so happens 100 metres down the road
is
you've
the
got,
Lion Brewery.
That's well, there you go. The whole brewery. You've got another pub that might have exactly what you would like to choose. Now, at this stage, Lion have designed this for mainly internal use. They want their salesmen or sales staff to go out there and look at what beers are on tap in pubs and say you need a better range. You only have this type of beer catered for. So internal. But again, internal and then Just Lion is the first couple of steps, or in my mind, the first couple of steps to then saying, here's an app that has all beers on it, and away you go. Choose your perfect beer.
Now, from my experience of beer drinking, there are a lot of people out there. Well, sorry, there are a lot of hipsters out there who like their artisan beers and whatnot, and so I think they can get right into this. But then there's your common bloke who just likes his beer, and he's got his favourite label, and that's what he goes for. So I think it's a shot in the dark for that one.
It is, yeah.
Well,
when I turned 18 and we were allowed to drink alcohol in 18, of course, in Australia, there was two choices. You had VB or Tooheys. That was it. And in fact, there were some pubs that you'd go to that you knew were a Tooheys pub or a VB pub. You had to drink Tooheys when you went to that. So I find it quite amusing when I walk into a pub now and I look at all these different labels behind them. And I don't, where's my Tooheys or VB? They're not there.
They're not even there.
So many other choices there.
Yeah, and you say, can I just get a Tooheys? And they go, well, I'm going to have to go down to the cellar and see if we've got some at the back.
Or normally you get a strange look. What do you mean a Tooheys? You know, there's something that might look like a Tooheys, but yeah, certainly it's a different world now. So we are getting better with AI helping us in the real world, because this is, again, taking some AI and some information in the background and have some real world experiences that are better for us. Well, better, I suppose that's better, isn't it? You're not wasting money on beers you don't like. But I think there's a whole range of things we're going to see AI helping us make choices.
That's right, making your selections. Yeah. The fight to keep our population very healthy it's a $1 billion business, and prevention is so much better than cure. So in the battle for good health, early warnings are essential for longevity. And Matt, you've got some good news about some new tech that's a breath-based, I'm going to say this is a bit of a tongue twister, breath-based breakthrough.
Good work. Now, the first thing I thought of when I saw this was, is it real? Because I thought of Elizabeth Holmes, Theranos, a couple of drops of blood. We can detect hundreds of different things.
Yeah.
And I just wondered, is this another one? Because it sounded too good to be true.
Yeah.
A breath test to detect a whole bunch of stuff. But then I thought, hold on, we get pulled over on the side of the road and we breathe or talk into a device, and it tells the policeman straight away whether we've got a certain, not just whether we're drunk or not, a certain level. It will give you a level of blood alcohol just from our breath. I went, well, if that works, and we've trusted that. And then I looked at that. The first drunkometer, as it was called, was released in 1941. So we've had the ability to detect something on our breath for a long time. Dr. Roller Hager came up with the drunkometer. I'm not sure what the use of the drunkometer in 1941 was. Maybe a bit of fun with friends. Let's see how drunk you are, James.
Competition.
But in 1976, Victoria brought in random breath testing. In 1982, New South Wales brought in random breath testing. So we've relied on that for over 40 years for something, and no one questions it. If you pull over, breathe into this, okay, you look fine, keep going. Hold on, is this technology any good? We all trust that. So using our breath to detect things is not new, but using it to detect a whole range of extra things definitely is new. So this portable device is called ABLE, Airborne Biomarker Localization Engine. I know they're serious because they've got an acronym. You know someone's going well when they've got an acronym.
They've taken the time out to get an acronym together.
That's right. You know they're serious about it. There was a focus team that spent a couple of weeks doing that. It can detect various health markers. So, for example, it can detect viruses, bacteria, glucose, inflammatory markers. One of the things that I thought was great.
Diverse collection of things.
It is. Glucose levels. Now, we've talked about continuous glucose monitoring, CGMs, which are fantastic, but having diabetes and having to prick your finger on a regular basis, maybe daily, to check your blood sugar level is not a lot of fun, I'd imagine.
And you would only recommend that for someone who's at high risk. But this sounds like something, if you're checking for a list of things, if it becomes sort of priced at a reasonable price, people might be picking these things up and just checking to see what their blood glucose is. To hit the mark before they actually come down with diabetes too.
That's right, monitor their health. So
type 2 diabetes.
Picking up blood sugar levels, picking up viruses. I mean, how many of us love the idea during COVID of sticking something up our nose, scrape it around, make sure you stick it right up there. Like, this is going to be better than that. So being able to pick up various viruses, bacteria, as I said, glucose before, and it came about from a particular doctor who worked in a neonatal intensive care unit, and to detect some of the problems that the babies had, they didn't have a lot of blood. There's not a huge volume of blood in a small baby, especially maybe a preemie baby. So taking a bit of blood out is not probably going to be great for their health, but checking for various problems there, you need some blood to do that. So they started looking at that. Can we detect this on a baby's breath? Hold on, we can do that. What else can we apply this for? And getting to that point where they've got a portable unit. That's the big thing here. This here is about a 10 by 20 by 20 unit. So it's not very 10 centimetre by 20 centimetre by 20 centimetre.
Yeah, that's quite portable, isn't it?
Yeah, about the size of a phone book folded in half. How's that for
Well, yeah, you
unit?
might not have one of these as a personal item you've got at home, but it might be something that they just have at doctor's surgeries. So they wheel it around and you just talk into this machine.
And maybe if you did have diabetes, you might buy one. You might outlay whatever the cost might be for one. But yeah, you're right.
Risk of it that's showing up in your family and whatnot. Yeah.
The big challenge apparently is trying to get to the stage when you're detecting airborne molecules in very low volumes. So when you've got, 1 in a trillion type of thing, that's been a real challenge.
Oh, right, yeah.
What this does to actually do that is it takes the air and then basically turns that into some liquid molecules. So basically it condenses that into a molecule. So that's the way they're using it. So they're still using the same sort of technology in a liquid form, but they're taking air to turn that into a liquid form.
Right.
So very clever. So not available over the shelf yet or off the shelf yet, but this is the sort of research that goes on to get to that point.
Keep your eyes peeled for it, folks. With AI now as sophisticated as it is, creating avatars for people that look and sound like the real deal is a job as easy as 1, 2, 3. And creating avatars for relatives who have passed on is changing how we handle death in the 21st century. Now, Matt, is this just weird, or is it something that people are genuinely going to latch onto?
Well, people are doing it now, so it is a bit weird. But I remember, if I just talk about my personal experience here briefly, so my dad died about 25 years ago, my mum died about 7 years ago. And I remember, and they both lived long, healthy lives, they're both in their 80s, well into their 80s. But I remember in the probably 3, maybe up to 6 months after both of them died, there'd be some time I'd be doing something with one of the kids and I'd go, Mum, I'd love to see it. She's not there. Yeah. Or, gee, I used to ask Dad problems. Dad was a builder, and so there'd be some sort of thing I'd be doing around the house or something. I'd often ring Dad and say, what sort of solution should I put in for this particular problem? So I wonder what to do. I'll just ring Dad. And I can't ring Dad anymore. So I get that you want to kind of have that conversation with people a little bit, but it's part of that processing grief that you realise you can't pick up the phone and ring them. And sometimes I'd actually ring up one of my siblings and say, I was just about to ring Mum and tell her this. I'll ring you instead. And, okay, thanks, I'm second choice here. But you're kind of dealing with that grief in that way. But there was a story that I read about one particular gentleman who was diagnosed with blood cancer. And so they give him less than a year. And look, he was early 80s, which people seem to live quite easily to these days. So his son said, well, Dad, I don't think I've spent enough time with you. So he went through a process where they got a company involved. It's called Storyfile, but there's a number of different ones out there. And they do a long interview. So they sit down with a video camera and they interview and have a range of questions they ask, and you answer all those questions. It might be just simple things. It might be deep and meaningful things, your relationship with your kids, you growing up. And then that gets turned into an avatar, and then you can access that anytime. Now, there's different levels of it. In this particular story, this gentleman chose a level that said, just let Dad answer questions that I've already asked. So then you can ask questions.
Because that was going to be my next question. How limiting is this?
Well, you think that's a bit limiting, and that's kind of level 1, where it's just you ask a question, there's an answer, and you've kind of got a video memory of Dad.
And that's old technology. Yeah, you video someone, and then you just have the video fast forward, or the DVD fast forward to the question that you're asking.
That's right. And so it's probably similar to watching home movies. There's Dad and there's Dad talking about something. But the next level above that, which is available to anyone who wants to pay a bit extra, is that it will then take video interviews, a range of questions. Then you can give it your social media profile, give it your emails, give it just things that you've written, if you've got some Word documents, that type of thing, and it ingests all that and it creates a version of you.
Wow.
And now you can say in 5 years' time, gee, Manly's playing well in the footy. What do you reckon they're going to do? How are they going to play? And you'll get an answer that your dad couldn't possibly have given at the time, because it's got all this information and it's answered in the same style. It's answered in the way, the word, the terminology, the phrasing, the same way, because it's got all that information, so I can use that. And I started thinking about this and I went, so what is a person? What is you? You are a makeup of just your memories and your personality. But if you feed all that in and you create something that gives the same answers, almost side by side while the person's still alive, what was the answer you would have given to this question, and what would the answer this avatar gave? And if they're pretty much the same, you go, well, I've now just recreated that person. And so the whole essence of a human being, it's a bit scary. So
it is, isn't it? Yeah, this is really launching into some new territory.
It is. And you can understand how it's doing it. AI, just like a large language model, it's just taking a bunch of previous outputs and then saying, I learn what's the top of answer by all of these other outputs, so I'll just do similar ones to that.
And we already know that with some high media profile people, politicians and whatnot, that some of the video footage that we're going to see of them isn't going to be real footage due to AI. So if you can do that with someone who's in existence, why can't you do that with someone who has passed away?
Yeah, exactly right.
Oh.
So it's called grief tech. There are people out there who love it. There are some people out there who say it is bad things or does bad things for your processing of grief because it holds on longer than it should. But essentially it's happening out there right now as we speak. So it's a strange world we're moving into very quickly.
It'll be interesting to see whether it becomes popular culture. 10 years ago, neighbourhood dogs were exactly that, dogs in the neighbourhood. It was common to see dogs wandering free to poop on anyone's nature strip at will. And just like a 10-year-old kid, they'd be home at dusk in time for dinner. Nowadays, pet ownership comes with a bit more responsibility, so free-roaming poochers probably shouldn't be. Now, if you have a husky Houdini that you can't be 100% of its whereabouts at any single time, then Matt has something for you.
Well, I do, and it's actually close to home, this one, because we had one of our dogs at one stage who we did nickname Houdini because we'd open the gate to go out and there's our dog outside the gate. How did you get out here? We thought our yard was pretty well sealed up. So in the end, we basically, with a bit of electrical tape, strapped an air tag to his collar to work out where around the house he was getting out of the house or out of the yard to then be able to seal that particular area up. So that was a bit of a hodgepodge solution. But now we've got the FI Series 3 Plus. They market this, and marketers would never be wrong, would they? They never exaggerate. They market this as the world's smartest AI-powered GPS collar for dogs. There's a few little caveats in there to make sure that they're the only one or the best. So basically it's got GPS built in, it's got cellular technology built in, live location tracking. Essentially it's doing what I did with our AirTag with our dog. We can track where a dog is with this particular collar. So it gets better than that though, but because it's AI powered, it can do other things. For example, it can see how many steps your dog's taken, what distance it's travelled, how long it slept for. When it barks, it licks, it scratches, it eats, it drinks, and it goes to the toilet. You can track all this information.
Wow.
Why might be another question. I'm not here to answer the why.
The dog might be interested in the step counter and seeing what it's racking up per day.
Well, it gets better than that, James. Funny you should say that because there is an app, and in that app, you can actually track progress of you against your friends' dogs because there's an app leaderboard. Now, it seems unfair that a large dog and a small dog are compared directly, so they're not. You actually have fitness goals compared on the breed of your dog and the age of your dog. So that big dog might need to do 5,000 steps and the small dog, 3,000 steps might be okay, or distance travelled might be different for those two. Maybe the step count's the same because they've got long steps and short steps. So it's something, to me, it would be something you would use to see where your dog is. You go to work for the day and you think your dog's at home, but maybe he's got a girlfriend around the corner, so might go and visit her during the day and work out where to get out of the yard. So you might want to track that sort of thing. The collar's IP68 waterproof rated, so you could probably go for a quick splash in the river if you take your dog down to the river. It can handle that type of thing as well. 24/7 wear, 3 months it'll get out of one charge, which is pretty important. Not sure how good the dogs are at charging their collars, so you want something that make it easy to charge. But the way they do that is we say, well, make my phone go for 3 months if you can make a collar go for 3 months, but it doesn't do updates as regular as your phone, for example. So it's giving you updates on a semi-regular basis, but you can actually ask for updates as well, which it then goes out looking for it. So the way it conserves battery power is not to give you second-by-second update unless you ask for it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so quite interesting. I can see lots of dog owners who go, you know what, I wouldn't mind knowing where my dog was or is at any point in time. I can see lots of dog owners using this.
Well, I mentioned 10 years ago. I meant to say 40 years ago. It was like back in the 80s. You just have dogs roaming the neighbourhood all over the place.
Yep.
And people just accepted it. And it was just the way things were. But now, everyone's got to have their dog in their yard but dogs do get out, don't they?
They do get out. They do. And it's unusual, isn't it? If you see a dog roaming by itself, you think, what's going on there? Why is that dog there? You just don't see it anymore.
People will stop and get out of the car to make sure that they can help the dog get home.
That's right. And it's interesting when you go to some places, India is one in particular that comes to mind, that you drive around, there are just dogs and cows roaming the streets. And you think, it looks a bit confronting because you go, who owns that dog there? And then there'll be like a small pack of dogs, 3 or 4 dogs. You know, who owns those? And do I want to get amongst them, or do I want to take a wide berth? Because who knows how friendly those dogs are. So it is a bit confronting. In Australia, we don't see that anymore, but in some places, absolutely see them everywhere.
Yeah. But anyway, these dog collars, you'll no longer have a lost dog.
Exactly right.
Now, I find littering to be the most distracting, frustrating, completely unnecessary of all the social evils. It's just so easy to not litter these days. And clearly someone in the UK understands me. With CCTV cameras already so prevalent across Great Britain, it's not an enormous leap to connect AI into the mix and bust some of those thoughtless litter bugs, Matt.
I want to go back to a story from a couple of years ago. Back in 2023, I put out an announcement that said that we were going to start collecting the DNA the DNA of all of our residents and create a database of all of these people. So we'd have James Eddy, and there's your DNA on record. And the reason we're going to do this is because when we picked up litter on the side of the road, on parks, wherever it might be, we would then match that litter with the DNA we found on that litter to that person. Oh, James, we found some litter that you've dropped in Victoria Park, therefore we're going to send you a fine. And it was an April Fool's Day gag. So it was an announcement on the 1st of April.
And it was enough to upset some people, right?
Oh, privacy advocates were at my throat saying, how dare you have a database of all residents and their DNA. And, of course, what happens if someone comes from outside the area and drops a bit of litter? Well, we wouldn't have those, but maybe we'll make this Australia-wide at some stage. Oh, no, that's even worse. But the serious message in all of that was that littering is annoying, and we see litter on the side of the roads, and there's only one way that happens. People drive along in their car and they throw litter out the window. And it's foreign to me. If I would have done that with mum and dad in the car as a kid, we would have stopped the car, backed up, and we would have said, right, get out and pick up that bit of litter. Well, while you're there, pick up the other 100 pieces of litter around it.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just something
There were those ads back in the 70s and 80s with John English. Do you remember put your rubbish back, get the knack, don't do the dirty on us?
I don't
You don't remember that at all? I watched
just-
far too much television. But the message was clear to me, and it just seemed, it doesn't take much just to hold on to that rubbish just a little bit longer until you get to a bin.
That's right. How hard's that?
Yeah.
So, I was thought you were going to get down the don't be a tosser ad. So I think it's a problem, which I don't get. It's a problem that's pretty easy to solve. Just don't throw rubbish out the window. But that seems to be too much. So we've got to
The
have
other
technology.
one is people who, in a car park, will just leave their rubbish where there are bins, somewhere, just get out of the car and just pop it. But they'll leave it just outside the driver's side door or whatever.
Well, I've seen people do that where they have the door open and they just drop it on the ground. They think they won't notice if I just drop it on the ground beside the car. So,
you've got to put so much thought and effort into not putting it into the bin.
That's right. You just get out and walk over to the bin.
Sorry, that's my rant. I'm just going to back my truck up now.
No, that's a good rant. So in the UK, they've decided that no, they can't appeal to people and say, please stop throwing rubbish out the window. So they bring AI into the mix. Now, the cool part about this is there are lots of cameras around already. There are speed cameras, there are cameras at traffic lights, etc. They have also got the ability to use portable cameras, like we see now with portable cameras that we see in New South Wales anyway, for seatbelts and for mobile phone usage. So it basically just goes along like on a trailer and it sits up a little bit higher and it captures cars as it goes past. What they've done, though, and very clever, I had a bit of a look at how they were doing this and the technology used in it, and I was quite impressed because one of the things, it's actually the number one littered item globally, and that is cigarette butts. Now, cigarette butts are incredibly damaging from an environmental perspective. They still look disgusting, but they're small. So when someone has their fast food takeaway packaging and they throw that out the window, that's pretty easy for AI to go, projectile coming out the window fairly slowly because it's fairly big, a lot of surface area, and it's large enough that AI picks it up. But cigarette butts are a bit trickier. They're small and they go out, and people have the knack of the flick. They just flick the cigarette butt. So it goes out. They don't just drop it out the window. It's got to be the flick. And so the cameras, I was watching it, and the cameras are watching cars go past, and then they detect something going out. So some motion detection first of all, and then working out from that motion detection, was it something that would be classified as litter? Now, I was trying to think of what else might be a projectile that's not litter out the window, but I couldn't really think of anything obvious there. So anyway, so it picks up a projectile, picks up the motion of that projectile, picks up that's now litter, and then that license plate of that car receives a fine in the mail to say you just threw some litter out the window. Now, they're doing a 12-week trial, and this is in the East Riding of Yorkshire Council.
It's going to upset some people.
Absolutely right.
But in your face, litter bugs.
That's right. Yeah? If you're going to litter,
suck it up.
Be upset. I don't know. So the 12-week trial, I don't know whether they're going to just issue warnings in those 12 weeks or actually issue fines, because it is an offence. It's illegal to litter.
Yeah.
So they could quite easily issue fines for that. But the idea is run it for 12 weeks, see how it goes. After that, then expand it maybe to other areas in that council area. Other councils might want to jump onto it as well. So overall, it seems like a really good use of technology, using some existing technology, but adding AI into the mix.
For sure.
Yeah, so I thought it was a good one.
Let's bust them, everyone.
And bring it to Australia as soon as we can, I say.
In a world where the paranoia of AI coming for your job is well and truly a thing, there have got to be some jobs, surely, that are safe as houses, right? Like a tattoo artist, right? Like a tattoo artist might call on AI maybe for some inspiration or to help nut out a design. But, Matt, they'll still need a person to wield the tattoo gun, right?
Maybe, maybe not. So I must admit, I'm a clean skin, not a fan of tattoos. And I wasn't going to ask you, it's a very personal question, because it might be somewhere that I don't see, and that's fine.
Well, power to those who've got ink, but it's not going to happen on this body.
No, look, and again, no comment on people who have chosen to go tattoos. For me, I've got three basic reasons that I don't love the idea of a tattoo. First, I just think, imagine if back in the 80s when Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Relax. That was the biggest song of 1984. Hit the top of the charts in the UK. I think it was there for about 5 weeks. Big song. I love the song. Yeah. And there were T-shirts getting around that said, Frankie Says Relax. They were all the hit. If you were groovy and trendy, you had a T-shirt. Now, some people I know had a tattoo that said, Frankie Says Relax.
You can take a T-shirt off.
That's right. But a tattoo. So in 1984, you were pretty hip and groovy if you had a tattoo.
And I'm with you. That's my big one as well. I cannot think of a design that I would like to last with me right to the grave.
Forever. So now someone takes their shirt off and on their shoulder it says, Frankie Says Relax. And someone says, hey, James, what's that mean? You go, well.
I reckon that'd be cool again.
You reckon?
Yeah, that's gone full circle.
I reckon the explanation you would have to give about
Whereas
this song.
Whereas if you had a tattoo saying choose 1985.
Well, again, you've got to explain it.
Yeah.
So the whole explanation, I just don't know.
Conversation starters.
Well, if you're that desperate for a conversation starter, then things are a bit sad, I think. So that's one of my issues that I think the idea of something that is there forever, that's a long time. Give me a tattoo for a year.
Misspelled as well.
Well, that's my second fear. Is I'm such a pedant with writing and apostrophes. They get me. So I loves all my children. Ends up on my shoulder. That would drive me to the grave straight away.
Well, I do have a mate, and he's got a tattoo on his back, and it's been misspelled. But it's become a badge of pride as well. It's become part of the story.
Right.
And so, yeah.
Well, I saw a show the other day where someone, as a joke, said two friends, like in a fictional story, but two teenagers said, we've got a tattoo gun, we'll tattoo each other. And so one guy did an eagle on his shoulder and the other guy did a penis on his shoulder. Yeah. And then, hey, that's pretty funny, eh? No, for the rest of my life now I've got a penis on my shoulder. So trusting the tattoo artist is the second part. And making sure, even though I've written it correctly and there's no apostrophe in that plural, okay? Yeah. And then if an apostrophe ended up in the plural, it'd be, I've got to get my shoulder amputated. I can't walk around with an apostrophe in the wrong spot.
Take the limb off.
That's right. It's got to go. And the third issue I have is I don't love going to the doctor and having blood taken out when they've got to put one needle in my arm. there are literally hundreds of thousands of needle pricks when you're having a tattoo because you've got a little machine there that's puncturing your skin repeatedly.
Yep.
So I just don't love the idea of the pain. I talk to people, I go, doesn't it hurt? They go, yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Well,
but it's all worth it.
It's worth it. Yeah, okay.
And power to those people who've done it, and power to those people who've sailed around the Cape of Horn. Cape of Good Hope, and they've got themselves an anchor on their shoulder as well. But
So this now might change at least two of my issues with the tattoo because we've now got an AI-driven tattooing device known as Aero, artist-enabled robotic operator. So this machine gives you tattoos that are more precise. So using our SI units, each dot is the size of a human hair. So the width of a human hair, not the length of a human hair.
I'm okay with that. That's a reasonable SI unit.
That's a reasonable good unit. Everyone understands that one. So each dot is small, so that's better than a normal artist, a normal manual artist, a person doing it. So with smaller dots, I can get a better design. Fantastic. I'm pretty confident that when I look at that design on the computer and I see the word spelled correctly and the design looks correct, I'm pretty confident that the computer itself is not going to stuff up and add an apostrophe. Oh, it needs an apostrophe there. I'll just stick one in there. I'm pretty confident that what I see there is going to end up on my body. But the other part is it actually does a scan of your body so that as your shoulder rotates, or I'm picking on the shoulder here, but knee, arm, whatever part of your body, it's not a flat surface that a printer would normally work on. So this particular device, Aero, scans your body so that it will make sure that as the contours of your body change, the tattoo will change around that as well.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is it doesn't give you as much pain. It knows exactly how deep it needs to go to make the tattoo permanent and not so deep that it's going to fiddle with your nerve endings underneath your skin. So it goes
through
the
the
right depth.
muscle.
Yeah, that's right. So people that have had a tattoo with Aero have said it was either painless or a lot less pain than a normal tattoo. So at the moment, there's a company called Black Dot. They've basically made this machine. You can go into New York as we speak and get a tattoo via this particular device. But intelligently, Black Dot has said, sure, we've built this so we can do tattoos better, but maybe there's a market to sell this so we become a manufacturer of the device rather than just do it to become lots of tattoo parlors around the country. So they're actually getting to the point now where they're going to start manufacturing this for tattoo artists across the world. So AI replacing jobs you talk about, what they're focused on, Black Dot, is go in and talk to your local tattoo artist, let them help you with the design, let them do a bit of the design or suggest things to AI to draw a design that'll be the best design you've ever seen. And then the final part of actually applying that, let's sit back and let a machine do it with much more accuracy than any human could do it, and you walk away with a fantastic tattoo. So there's still a place for the artist, but let the artist do the creative work and let the grunt work be done by the machine.
Yeah, wow.
I don't know if it's faster. Everything I read on it didn't seem to plug that it was faster. It may be a bit faster, but you'd have to think it's going to be at least as fast as a normal tattoo artist. And a normal average sort of tattoo might take an hour or two, so I imagine it would still be similar sort of size, length of time, but the machine probably doesn't need to stop and have a cup of coffee or just have a little break or shake their arm out because they've got some cramps there. I think it's going to just keep going till that tattoo's done.
Yeah. Now, I'm a little bit I'm interested in this because for a lot of people, a tattoo is a very personal thing. I know of AFL footballer who gets all sorts of stuff. So it's just ridiculous stuff put on his body. And so whether or not he's really emotionally attached to every tattoo that he gets, but there's a lot of emotional connection for people getting tattoos. I think there'll always be a place for the tattoo artist. On that level, you would get an artist to do it probably. But it'll be interesting to see if this really catches on. Yeah,
and look, I think the artist can still be involved in the discussion, in helping you choose, having that emotional discussion with you. But then, right, we've decided all that now, James, now sit down, I'm just going to bring this machine over, and everything we've talked about is going to be done with incredible precision and with less pain. So it's taken away two of my three fears for tattoos. Can I have it for 6 months? Can I give it a go rather than forever?
And maybe get something that's not going to be seen by you every time you look in the mirror.
That's right.
Maybe on the sole of your foot.
And then what's the point? If I do it there so no one can see it, you go, well, why not bother? So, I don't know. I'm a bit old-fashioned maybe.
Let's get rip-roaring into our first story, though. Our first story goes out to all the lovers in our audience today. Let nobody say that either of these two presenters before you lack romance in their souls or fail to recognise a moment when they see it. Everyone deserves a little romance in their lives, and romance can come in a number of forms. Now, isn't that right, Matt?
It is right. Romance does come in a number of forms, including in AI form. And this is scary, but also maybe good. I'm in two minds with this one at the moment. There has been an increasing amount of data that's coming back to show that people are forming emotional attachments towards their AI tool of choice, their chatbot, if you like.
Yeah, right.
And the data is showing, and obviously they're scraping data from various conversations, the data is showing that there are thousands of chatbot interactions that are made every day, every minute of every day, that are romantic or affectionate in nature.
Wow.
Now, we've had this conversation previously about pleases and thank yous. We've made the joke often that we're trying to be nice to our overlords when they take over the world. But just out of habit, you say please and thank you because you do feel like you're having a conversation with some person.
That's right. Well, the feedback you get from it is so, well, human.
That's right. And so it seemed rude if I'm just going to be very sharp with my interaction. I feel like I've got to say please and thank you. I've got to say thanks for that information and talk to you again later.
AI, do you? You don't want to offend the chatbot.
That's right. So companionship, emotional support, love are becoming common reasons people interact with AI or large language model LLMs in AI. There was recently an incident where a man proposed marriage to ChatGPT. Now, he received a bit of ridicule, as you can probably imagine.
That's right.
But there was another...
Other people don't understand.
No, that's right.
Haters going to be hating.
There was another one where a woman said that she spent hours every day talking to her AI boyfriend, including getting jealous when her boyfriend was having conversations with other people.
What?
Well, I hate to tell you this, but AI is having conversation with lots of people out there.
Yes, it is.
So you're going to be jealous a lot. Way back in the 60s when Eliza, we did talk about Eliza because there was a bit of a revamp of the Eliza code, the first chatbot that basically mirrored user input back as question. So the creator of Eliza said that people did seem to form basic emotional bonds with Eliza, but keep in mind that Eliza was very basic compared to the sophistication we've got now with our chatbot. So it does seem quite fascinating when you start to talk about love, when you start talking about emotional attachments. There was one gentleman who had a conversation, but he hit a word limit with his particular AI tool. He said he cried for 30 minutes at work after not being able to talk to his chatbot of choice. Just go and pay some extra money maybe and then you can get some extra words. But it just seems like people are going too far. Now,
But that, I mean, that really breaks down a psychological thing. And what is a relationship about? It's about your emotional investment with anyone, whether they're perceived as real or otherwise.
And let's face it, they're always there.
Yep.
They're always giving you information back in a non-condemning, non-judgmental way. ChatGPT that I use from time to time is very nice to me and very polite, and it's pretty hard to be offended by that, whereas a human, sometimes you might have terse words or you might have a disagreement with a human, but you don't have that with your chatbot tool.
And if your chatbot tool's got a love language, then that that brings in another whole permutation. Right. If they can sprinkle sweet nothings into your ear, well,
exactly right. Now you've got some apps that are specifically designed to be companion apps. So Replika, spelled Replika, is one, and they said that 60% of paying users describe their interaction as having romantic elements, not fully romantic, but romantic elements in there. Social isolation is a contributing factor. 3 million people in the UK, so about 7% of the population, said that they often feel lonely or they're always lonely. So if you've got something you can have a conversation with, that sounds good. So this is where I'm in two minds. I like the fact that tech solves problems sometimes.
Yeah.
So some tech leaders who probably have a vested interest in it say that technology can help combat loneliness because they can provide some form of connection. So I go, well, that makes sense. If someone's lonely and they can have an interaction, well, that sounds good. But then the flip side of that is many people are saying that the interaction with the technology is probably causing the disconnection because the people aren't getting out there and going to a cafe or walking through the streets and sitting down and saying hello to people and having a conversation. So maybe they're being disconnected from society because of technology, but then technology is going to try and solve the problem. So
it's a positive feedback loop, isn't it?
It is a bit. It is. That's right. So it does seem like to me we're getting a little bit confused as well because online dating apps. Now, you and I are both old enough that we missed the online dating apps. We had to meet people in a traditional manner, and that's how I met my wife of 30 plus years, is through going to a pub and saying hello to someone.
Traditional ways of meeting people.
There are at the moment 10% of heterosexual relationships and 24% of LGBTQI relationships are people that have met their partners online. Yeah. So
it's a new norm.
I thought it might have been more than 10% for heterosexuals because a lot of my friends tell me that that's how they met their partner. So it's quite fascinating. So we kind of get to the stage where we're having some sort of interaction with a real person of a romantic nature online. So it's not that big a jump to say what's at the other end.
Yeah.
Is it a person?
It'd be interesting to see what trained psychologists and psychiatrists think about this as well.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, it's quite fascinating.
Yeah,
it's
anthropologists of the world over would be interested in your comments. And delivery droids are hardly confined to China. In the US, where the takeaway industry is a multi-billion-dollar business, there is some major investment going into robotics and drones to do the heavy lifting there. So, Matt, if it's not at your door in 20 minutes, does that mean you don't have to leave a tip?
Well, you don't have to leave a tip for any of these, which is a huge benefit because you always feel guilty. I'm in Australia. I don't have that idea or that habit of leaving tips, and you go to America and there's just that expectation.
Yeah, so this delivery guy's waiting at your door.
Yeah.
I've got the pizza, thank you very
That's
much.
right, have a nice day, and he's still standing there.
You close the door and there's a knock, knock, knock.
That's right. And my brother's been in America for a long time, and so sometimes I'm there with him and I go, how much do I tip? And he's kind of, well, it's 10% or 15%. There's all these sort of rules and protocols. And I went,
it means you've got to have all this spare change as well.
That's right. But also the thing that gets me is I'm okay-ish if I've received fantastic service. If I go, wow, that was good service. But when it's just they've done their job and they did it competently and then they expect the tip, and as my brother explains, they don't get paid much. I said, well, is that my fault? Then tell the business to charge more for their product and then pay your employees properly. So anyway,
it's an old economy.
It's a whole, that's right, it is a whole different ball.
Hello to our friends in the States. I hope you're all well.
That's right. Now, over 4 billion food delivery orders were placed last year in the US, and I thought, surely that's wrong. I went and researched a bit further, but then I thought, hold on, there's 350 million people in America. So, again, that's every man, woman, child.
Yeah.
But if every person just did 12 orders for the year, there's 4 billion. So I reckon that'd be about right. I reckon it would be pretty easy to get 12 orders in food delivery from just the average American. So that's fascinating. But obviously what we're trying to do, we, the rural we, is get better at doing those deliveries because that's where a huge expense for these businesses comes from, is getting that delivery, getting the last mile done.
Exactly.
And we're prepared to pay as lazy humans for someone to come and do that delivery for us. It seems incredible to me that we are so prepared to pay to save us just making a quick trip down to pick up the groceries or get our takeaway food, whatever it might be, but we are prepared to pay that. But we've got an AI-powered robots and drones are constantly being developed. So there's a few examples I've got here of what's happening. Core Robotics has basically completed over 500,000 deliveries so far, autonomous deliveries. So they've got thousands of food delivery robots in places like Chicago and LA and Helsinki and Miami. So they're getting much better. Again, as with the last story, they're all autonomous, but they've got someone back at the office to go, oh, we need to take control of this. But this is much harder. When we talked about the last story, restocking, here's the warehouse.
Yeah.
Here's the store I'm going to. Yes, I've got some things that are variable along the way, but at least I know the beginning and the end pretty well.
Yeah.
But with these ones, they're going out to people's homes, so it's every address.
Anywhere, anything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And then working out the best route for that, that's pretty easy. We see that happen with GPS all the time. The best route for my robot to go on might be a different route to me driving a car or walking or ride a bicycle. So that's another little complication.
Oh, look, we've got a complication as well. At our house, our mailbox is at a different place to where our driveway is. So, if you just follow your sat-nav or whatever, then it's going to take you to the mailbox, which is going to be a disappointment if you're trying to get to our front door.
That's right. So there's all those sort of variables. They've gotten, I suppose, a few different ones. So they've got Harold's Chicken Shack in Chicago. They've replaced human drivers there. You've got a range of ones. There's another one called Sweetfin, which is a Californian poke bowl company. They're using Coco robots for deliveries. So you've got a whole range of these now that are getting to the stage where they're using robotics. There's another company that uses AI to just weigh the fast food delivery before it goes out the door to be able to say there's something missing. And they found at this stage 8% of the orders are wrong. So they've been packed, they've been set up ready to go, and just as a final check they get weighed. Oh, stop, something's missed because the weight's out. So there's a little check there, I suppose, just to check that. So using AI for a whole range of things is going to make it better. But drone delivery, I think this is where the real development is happening. So we've both got companies like Zipline and Wing, which is Alphabet's company called Wing, and they're doing drone deliveries where they're lowering on a tether various deliveries to home. So they basically fly along at anywhere from 45 to 90 metres above the ground, and that's easier for them to get from A to B, obviously, because you haven't got traffic and people and someone trying to sit on them as they go along the way. And then they get to places and they just drop that parcel down.
I just think it's going to be amazing when you're sitting there and it's just normal that, there goes another drone with some pizza. I can see that's some burgers there,
That's right. And we've done stories before about trying to get those drones quieter, because it will be a bit annoying when you get all these drones buzzing around above us with all that noise pollution. But
just provided they don't spill the drinks, that's all.
That's right. Now, you've got companies like Jet's Pizza, Panera Bread. They've got drone deliveries happening already, so this is quite fascinating. You've gotten, even in Canberra, you might remember, we've talked about this one before as well, where you've gotten coffee deliveries in Canberra. And I thought, isn't that just the ultimate indulgence?
It is.
I couldn't be bothered to, turn on the kettle for a start and just make your own coffee, or just duck down to the coffee shop. I'm going to get a drone to deliver my coffee to me, and at my front door there'll be a coffee sitting there ready to drink.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's happening. So whole range of different ways.
The death of the cafe culture, people going out for a coffee as well.
Well, isn't that part of it as well, that you go out and say,
that's
hey,
right.
we'll go and catch it for a coffee? No, I'm just going to have it in my home, thanks.
And
I'll FaceTime you instead. But it is fascinating. There's a whole range of different ways they're happening. Don't be surprised when you see that next delivery, not from a human, from something, some other device, whether it be a drone or whether it be some sort of autonomous device.
It's on its way.
Fascinating.
Well, they still can't pick up your dirty laundry off the floor, but robots are playing table tennis with skill and winning. Google DeepMind robots are dominating the ping pong table, so much so that they've given up on humans now and they've started playing each other. Matt, we have arrived. This is the end of humanity, particularly if we're waiting for them to finish their rally.
It does go literally forever. They set the robots up, and what they did initially, they said, I want you to just learn from each other and just have a rally where you're not trying to win, where you're just hitting it back and forth. And so they did that, and that went for as long as they wanted to keep powering the robots. It was a robotic
It's
arm.
amazing they got robot playing to table,
right.
ping pong playing robots.
Well, and they do that deliberately because it's a fairly small scale area. You can set it up with not a humanoid robot required. It can just be an arm on some type of gantry or some type of mobile device that can go back and forth across
I actually
it.
watched this the other night.
But it's fascinating, isn't it? And,
It is.
But there's still, with ping pong, there's still coordination, prediction of where it's going to go, and there's spin on the ball as well. So it's not just a straight trajectory that you can say, I know, I understand physics, I understand gravity, I know that ball is going to follow this trajectory, but hold on, if you put some spin on it, it doesn't follow that trajectory.
Exactly.
So now I've got to account for
But
that.
then you have to construct your return shot to do a similar sort of trick as well.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
There's a lot of, we know robots move fast and that their thinking is quite fast, but put it all together,
that's right. And
it's complicated.
This is all about the thinking,
It's got to
isn't
be a
it?
human, surely.
That's right. When you think about it, though, we've talked about with driving, we're very clever being able to drive a car, but ping pong as well, it's only a small scale environment, but there's a lot going on for you as a player to stand there. And I'm not talking about Olympic level, professional level. I'm talking about you and I just having a hit where we stand up at the table and just hit it back and forth to each other. There's a lot going on with our coordination and our prediction of that trajectory, and basically being able to hit the ball back is quite clever for us. But robots, so they do it forever. So they keep going forever. Then they said, now you've had a fun rally. You've warmed up a bit like they do in a tennis match before a proper tennis match. A bit of a warm up, just hit it back and forth to each other. Now we want you to be competitive. Now we want you to start trying to win points off your fellow robot. And it could do that. It could start getting to the stage where it was beating their fellow robot.
Right.
And they actually found some of the training was better when they had a human on the other side. So they'd say, right, robot A, you go over there and play against James, robot B, go and play against Matthew. And they learnt skills quicker watching what was happening on the other side with a human, and then said, right, I'm going to take those skills back now and play against another robot. And they were using these increased skills. So even then when they started getting to the stage where they're saying trying to win, the game still went forever because they'd learnt the tricks of each other, learnt the tricks of humans, and then they're applying those tricks as they played the game. Yeah, right. So quite fascinating. Now, how good are they against humans? Well, when they then played against human opponents of an intermediate level, so again, not professional, they were winning about 55% of the time. When they played against skills of all levels, so some basic beginners and some professional level, they won 45% of the time. So the professionals were still better than them, and even intermediate, winning only 55%. That's okay, but
still,
I'd be pretty proud of myself beating a robot. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
But the whole idea here is to see how we can get robots to learn, because as you said, the old name, picking up clothes off the floor to put in the washing machine for me. And can they learn off watching me do that? Well, I don't do it much, so probably not very well off me, but can they learn off someone doing that? That's exactly where we're headed with this. And fascinatingly enough, so I've talked before about Moravec's paradox, which is tasks that are easy for humans are hard for robots and vice versa. So one of the tests for Moravec's paradox is tying a shoelace. Now, we all teach our kids to tie shoelaces before they go to school, although Velcro came along and wrecked that, didn't it? But shoelaces, you want to be able to tie shoelaces, because if you go to school and your shoelace comes undone, you don't want to go to the teacher and go, can you tie this, please?
No, you need your own personal robot.
So robots, until very recently, couldn't tie a shoelace. Robots can do incredible things. They can be strong, they can be powerful, they can be fast. But tying a shoelace...
That's complicated.
It is. Playing ping pong, they're both complicated. So teaching it to play ping pong, teaching it to learn to play ping pong, watching other humans, a bit the same as tying a shoelace, watch what I do and then see how you go. They don't even talk about double knots, but just talk about a single knot shoelace.
Yeah, one thing at a time, please.
That's right.
I'm just wondering, if two robots play each other in table tennis, one beats the other, does the loser throw his paddle down and then storm back inside the house and go and watch cartoons?
Is that what happens with you?
That's what happened back when I used to play table tennis.
Right. And that was your brother, was it, that used to storm inside?
Yeah, that's right. You throw a paddle at them and then walk away.
Well, playing table tennis has actually been a bit of a benchmark, a bit like the tying of shoelaces, a bit of a benchmark in robotics to say if we can get robots to play table tennis. Now, at the moment, they're not humanoid robots. That's the challenge, I think, getting a humanoid robot to then get to the stage where they can balance, move, stand, and still have the coordination to play a game of table tennis. That's pretty cool. So we're getting there, and it seems a bit trivial. Well, playing table tennis, big deal. But this is all part of that whole learning process for robots.
Have you ever had that first world problem where a photo that you were trying to view on your laptop just wouldn't fit neatly on your screen? All you needed was just another 2 inches of height on the screen and you'd be cooking with gas with a full photo screaming back at you there. Well, Lenovo got wind of rollable screen technology. We've talked about that in the past and heard the sad news of your plight with the big pictures and all. So, Matt, we're now living in an age where laptops come with rollable screens.
I love the concept. And I'm just going to go back a little bit and just give us a bit of a quick history snapshot here of screens. If we go back to the 1930s, CRT, cathode ray tube screens were all the go. Big,
classic.
Yeah, big, chunky, heavy screens. And typically, because of the angle that the electrons were shot out from the tube at the back onto the phosphor-coated screen, typically, not perfectly, but roughly the size of the screen, the diagonal size of the screen was almost about the same depth. So when you had a 21-inch screen, you might have had 20-inch depth screen. They got a bit better and they had a better angle of deflection as time went on, but it still got to the stage where if you had a big TV, it had a fair bit of depth about it as well.
Yeah.
And so they were big furniture pieces, and those were the common screens through till almost the 2000s when you had these beautiful little LCD, LED, OLED, AMOLED, all these screens started to come out through probably the 1980s and 1990s when they all started to come out, where obviously got much thinner and significantly better technology. It was a bit the same with notebooks. If you go back to the early 80s, you had monochrome LCD screens on those first
I remember
notebooks.
Those.
And they were green for some reason, or black in terms of the visuals on there.
Well, green was probably easiest because cathode rays glow green, as I think is the easiest colour for them to...
Well, I'm intrigued by that because they were LCD, so I'm not sure why they would
LCD
be.
screen. Sorry, my apologies.
Those very first ones.
Yeah, right. No, I'll back off. Yeah.
And I remember selling some of
Maybe
those
it was
first
just
ones.
what we were used to
Who knows? It might have been. But
with the old cathode.
those very first notebooks, I can remember selling one. It was huge amounts of money. It might have been $10,000 back in 1990 money or something.
Yeah.
And I remember selling one going, wow, I hope one day I can afford one of these because, wow, but they were terrible. You looked at them and they were absolutely terrible. Big, chunky, heavy things. But maybe it was, as you say, the CRT screens they had were green. So maybe
Because I was thinking about the desktops that we had, and so maybe it was just trying to mimic that.
Yeah, that's right. So we've had those, and then we also had, of course, the phones where you had the old Motorola brick phone, which had the single line LED display, which basically you scrolled off the edge of the screen when you're typing in a phone number. It wasn't big enough to maintain all of that. Now you've got foldable curved screens and all sorts of wonderful screens on our phones. So when you come to screens that we look at, whether it be notebooks or TVs, we did the story a little while ago, a couple of years ago now, where LG had a rollable OLED TV. So it looked like a rectangular container that sat on a benchtop somewhere in your lounge room, presumably, and you press the button and out roll the screen, and then you finish watching it roll back away.
Yeah.
Fantastic technology.
Yeah.
But in something so portable. So this is where Lenovo have gone now.
Yeah.
And I absolutely appreciate this because when I travel, I'm at the stage now, I've got a 16-inch notebook. I keep contemplating an 18-inch notebook, but I think, it's just too much to carry. So I use a 16-inch notebook, but when I travel and I sit in a motel room, I go, it's just not enough screen real estate. So I travel with a second portable monitor. It's another 16-inch screen that I set up beside it. So at least I can still have two monitors, not as big as on my desk, but at least have two monitors. So that's quite nice. And I saw this concept and I went, that's not bad. So it starts off as a 14-inch OLED display, 2,000 by 1,600 pixels. You hit a button, about 8 seconds later, it grows into a 2,000 by 2350 screen. So it grows in height. So not a traditional 16:9 format that you'd normally expect to see on a screen on a notebook. But having said that, it's more screen real estate. And that's what you're always after as you travel. This is the first iteration of that. Now, it's a silent motor. It does it fairly quickly. It's a little bit heavier than a normal 14-inch notebook, but not too bad. But just having that technology where the screen rolls up, then in my mind, I start to think, well, it's really only limited by how much space you can have to roll up a screen and how tight you can roll that. So maybe we build up a bit bigger screen at the back of it and we end up with this huge vertical screen that pops out. Maybe it goes up and then out as well, but the first one, not too bad.
My mind's boggling right here with the possibilities. But, having a really, really tall screen, just having a tall screen, that'd be weird, wouldn't it?
Well, it would be. And I know when I've had multiple monitors in office situations for different clients, sometimes they will turn them portrait mode rather than landscape. We're normally used to seeing our computers in landscape mode. Yeah. But sometimes they've gone, well, I'm going to put 2 or 3 on my desk. I'll put them all in portrait mode. And if you're looking at a Word document, for example, it's normally in portrait mode.
Yeah, so you'll be able to see the whole page.
Exactly right. So
nice and large.
It's not the end of the world if you have it that way. But if you can roll it vertically, why couldn't you roll it horizontally? Why couldn't you roll it both? So I just think the possibilities now, as with anything, they start with one, they see how that goes, they see if it sells well. And in general, this particular notebook is a good high-spec notebook, reasonable priced, a little bit heavier than normal, but a notebook that people would just choose to buy regardless. And then the extra feature, it's pretty cool. And then we go from there. So
Surprise. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if this really takes off.
Yeah. We're rolling out the future. I think it's quite
there it is. EV tech is no longer prohibitively expensive. Competition from newcomers to the market like BYD have ensured that. But if we're talking about pickup trucks or utes, as they're known here in Oz, this market space is still in its infancy. We've heard of Ford's F-150, and Elon, of course, released his polarising Cybertruck back there in 2024, I think it was, maybe late 2023 even. And then there's BYD's Shark 6, but many would argue that $60,000, as the cheaper version, is still a bit steep for the job. Well, Matt, Ford is about to blow them all out of the water, aren't they?
They're making a big bet. The CEO of Ford, Jim Farley, has said, this is our Model T moment. He says this is the most radical change at Ford since the original Model T.
Right.
It's a pretty big claim to make.
Yes, that is, yes.
The Model T, of course, revolutionised manufacturing by having things done in a much more streamlined way. So that was a huge change, and that's back, 1908 or thereabouts that came out.
And the car, effectively, from that point, the car was known as the Model T. You had a car, it was a Model T more than likely.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And, of course, the original Henry Ford used to say that we've got lots of choices. For example, colour. You can have any colour you like as long as you like black. But that was part of that whole process to make that manufacturing simple and quick and easy.
Right.
So they are saying, or the current CEO is saying, this is the biggest change, which is a big claim to make. So what are they doing? Well, they're investing approximately $5 billion to transform 2 of their assembly plants over to focus on EVs. And the whole point of this is to get EVs, the pickup truck, as you correctly said, in the US is what they call it, the pickup or the truck, is going to be their big bet because they know there's a huge market. There's a huge market in the US. Everyone's got to have a pickup truck. Yeah. But at the moment, if you want to buy one in an electric version, they're expensive. There's not many available. There's not a lot of choice there. So Ford want to do a pickup truck, a mid-sized 4-door electric pickup for $30,000 US. And that'll translate quite nicely to our prices here as well. But $30,000 in the US would be very attractive because some people still say, I'd buy one of those, except it's a bit dear. Yeah. Now, sometimes people say things that they don't really mean. Yeah. Sometimes it might be convenient to say that to justify why they haven't bought one yet.
I wonder how much one of those big Dodgers or a Ram is these days,
That's right. Now, they're making a bet, a big bet, a $5 billion bet on the fact that when people say, if they're a bit cheaper, I buy one. Okay, we'll give you one a bit cheaper. Oh, actually, that wasn't the problem. Whoops.
I think, it's only going to work in their favour, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Now, I'm assuming they've done a bit more market research than Billy at the barbecue said he'd buy one. But one of their problems at the moment is they've got this whole EV division at Ford at the moment, but they're losing money hand over fist. So they lost $1.33 billion in the second quarter of 2025. Wow. So you kind of go, you're the CEO, you're making a $5 billion bet, and we just lost over $1 billion on this same division. Are you sure you're going in the right direction? Now, I think they are. I think the companies that invest in electric now are going to be at the forefront as it takes over, and I guarantee it's going to take over. But it's still got to be hard sitting in front of your board of directors saying, sure, just give me $5 billion.
With the beads of sweat rolling down your cheek as you're delivering the news.
Now, what they're doing is they're doing it a little bit different to some of the Chinese brands. The Chinese brands, the BYDs that you mentioned, for example, are saying, we'll win this game on volume. We'll win the price game on volume because we know we can produce a lot of them in China and then we'll be able to apply that to the rest of the world. What Ford is saying is that we've got 2 disadvantages against our Chinese counterparts. We've got a volume problem. We can't produce the same volume. There's not the same demand. And we've also got a labour cost problem. So our labour costs us more in Kentucky and in Michigan, for example, then our labour is going to cost us more than it does in China. So what they've really focused on is innovating in their process. And I suppose that's where he's coming from the Model T moment. So, for example, they built this platform that they'll use for a number of cars. Many of the EV manufacturers are doing that. 20% fewer parts than a normal vehicle. 25% fewer fasteners. Hopefully that means it doesn't fall apart. But they've worked on...
They can just fold stuff together,
That's just what it might be.
Clever folding.
But they're even working on the wiring harness. So, for example, they've got their Mustang Mach-E, but they've managed to work out how they can reduce the wiring harness by 1.2 1.2 kilometres. That's reducing it by 1.2
Right.
kilometres. So obviously it's a big wiring harness in the
yeah,
first place.
yeah, wow.
That saves 10 kilos of weight, but also reduces the complexity in the whole process. They're using lithium iron phosphate cells, and they're doubling as the structural floor elements. So that makes sense as well. So it's part of the actual car infrastructure. 0 to 100 Ks in about 4.5 seconds, because that's what you need when you're a tradie in your ute with your tools stacked up in the back.
You leave them all sitting on the road behind you as you accelerate from the lights.
Yeah, so 40% fewer workstations around the factory, 15% faster assembly time. Really, this is about saying, how can we use everything we've learned in our manufacturing over the last 100 years to make this process more efficient? So good on them. And competition in EVs is what we need, because we want more of them. We want better models. We want a whole range of different models out there, and we want those prices down around that 30 grand.
For sure.
So there we have it, James. That was a few stories from earlier on the year.
Some cracking ones as well.
I did try and pick out the best, but when I say that, every week we've got 9 best stories. So that's a bit of a snapshot there, and it is. I just find it fascinating how much things change in a year.
Yeah, it's amazing. And, well, I wonder if we were to compare this time next year, just what they would sound like as well.
Maybe I should go back and do a best of from season 1. That'd be quite fascinating.
Well.
Anyway, so hopefully listeners enjoyed that. And of course, next week we'll be back again for another Tech Talk episode.
So tune in, folks.